Chapter 1. The Longbourn estate, home of the Bennet family, sat in a typical English county. The head of the family, a witty gentleman of modest nobility, was married to a woman who, though short of wits, was very energetic. Mrs. Bennet dreamed of finding husbands for all of her daughters. So she was thrilled when a young, wealthy, and most importantly, single aristocrat rented a luxurious estate nearby. Chapter 2. The Bennet sisters met the eligible bachelor and his reserved friend, Mr. Darcy, at a ball. Mr. Bingley, the owner of Netherfield, appeared pleasant and charming. On the contrary, Darcy gave the impression of a proud and arrogant individual. Bingley and the eldest Bennet sister, Jane, who were both sweet and naive, connected immediately and began to dance. Chapter 3. Mr. Bingley did his best to shake his friend. He advised him to consider Jane's sister Elizabeth, a rather pretty maid, as a dance partner. However, Darcy was quick to share why Elizabeth wouldn't suit him. Unfortunately, Lizzie overheard their conversation. Darcy began to seem even haughtier to her. I could easily forgive his pride, had he not offended mine. Chapter 4. The Bennet sisters became frequent guests at Netherfield. Jane and Bingley seemed meant for one another. Lizzie, on the other hand, was forced to interact with Darcy, constantly having philosophical debates with him. She even allowed herself the occasional barb at the bachelor's expense. Once or twice she believed she caught an interested glance in her direction. Chapter 5. At a ball, Darcy gave in and invited Lizzie to dance. Dancing in awkward silence was unbearable for Lizzie. I've heard varying opinions about you. Accounts of me can be quite contradictory. I'd rather you formed your own opinion. Suddenly, something fluttered in Lizzie's chest. Could it be that she might actually be attracted to this haughty gentleman? Chapter 6. The youngest Bennet, Lydia, loved a man in uniform. Captain Wickham caught the attention of all three sisters. They came to know that the captain was welcomed into the Darcy family, and that Darcy's father had promised him a good living in the parish. However, the younger Darcy deprived Wickham of the inheritance, purely out of jealousy outrageous. Lizzie could never foe Darcy for this. Chapter 7. Soon Jane received sad news. Bingley and Darcy were leaving Netherfield and had no plans to return. The poor girl's heart was broken, and Lizzie was deeply concerned for her sister. She was sure that Bingley was infatuated with Jane. What could have caused their sudden departure? But even Lizzie herself felt a bit unsettled. What could be causing this sinking feeling? Chapter 8. Lizzie assumed she would no longer see the brooding Mr. Darcy, but their paths crossed at a reception hosted by Lady Catherine de Bourgh. Lizzie was pleased to see him, until she learned from one of the quests the true reason for Darcy and Bingley's departure from Netherfield. It turned out that Darcy had been rescuing his friend from an ill-advised marriage to an unsuitable young lady. Chapter 9. In vain have I struggled. My tongue will not be silenced. You must allow me to tell you how ardently I admire and love you. Elizabeth was shocked by Mr. Darcy's confession. In his words she could hear not only passion, but also wounded pride. Do you think that I would accept the hand of a man who stole my sister's happiness, a man who treated Captain Wickham, a childhood friend, so poorly? Chapter 10. In a letter, Mr. Darcy claimed he felt Jane did not love Bingley, and was sparing his friend a broken heart. Now he was apologizing for his mistake. As for Wickham, he had abandoned the parish, demanding monetary compensation instead. When he squandered the money, he tried to seduce Mr. Darcy's younger sister, hoping to secure her dowry. Darcy wouldn't let that happen. Lizzie was bewildered. Chapter 11. The entire way home, Lizzie couldn't get Darcy out of her mind. She now saw numerous virtues in him. However, dreadful news awaited her at home. The young Lydia had eloped with Captain Wickham. What a tragedy! After all, he would likely abandon her the moment he discovered she had no money. Lydia and the entire Bennet family would be humiliated. Chapter 12. To Lizzie's surprise and Mrs. Bennet's joy, Lydia and Wickham got married. They were allowed to visit Longbourn, and Lydia was ecstatic. In Scret, she revealed that their wedding expenses had been paid by Mr. Darcy. Instantly, Elizabeth grasped the full picture. Darcy wanted to save her sister's honor and arranged their marriage. He also paid off Wickham's gambling debts to secure Lydia's future. Chapter 13. Soon another joyful event took place at the Longbourn estate. Mr. Bingley returned and proposed to Jane. Lizzie was overjoyed for her sister, who was practically glowing with love and happiness. But Lizzie found herself wishing she could see Mr. Darcy again, at least once, to thank him and apologize. Chapter 14. Darcy and Bingley visited Longbourn once more. Lizzie and Darcy took a stroll, and the young woman shyly expressed her gratitude. Darcy looked at her intently and said, "You are too generous to trifle with my feelings. If your account of me has remained the same, tell me now. My affections and all my thoughts are unchanged." Lizzie gently took his hand in hers.